Hello again. Welcome back to the Crazy Train. This is a Crazy Canuck from Saskatchewan, Canada. Out in the garden, taking a few minutes off from working the land and seeding and busy time of year to show you all what I've been up to in the garden every spare minute I have. I decided to start using just a ring that I cut out of a barrel, and I just make a ring of different grains. Here I took a couple sunflowers out of the grow chamber and just stuck them in the ground out here. I'm not too happy, but they'll perk up. So over here I've got it's called Marabella wheat. Last year it grew 6 feet high, and my plots always seem to left till the latest, and some of these longer season crops don't do too well when you seed them late. So I started them in the house and transplanted them out here yesterday, and they're doing quite well. Looking forward to seeing how these turn out. Now, as you can see, my soil isn't quite as nice as it could be. If any of you saw Diamond's video planting the potatoes in his raised bed garden, that's perfect soil. And what I'm dealing with, it used to be a parking lot where they hauled in clay and then topped it with gravel. So I ripped it up and I turned it into topsoil. But not much you can do with the rocks. I eliminate a bunch of rocks every year, but as you can see, there's a few left. So here's onions I planted last fall. These are Egyptian walking onions, I believe. And then over here, not sure if you can see that, it's garlic. That's my garlic I planted last fall. Doing really well. So, as for the rest of the garden, where you see the Inuksuks, that's the start and end of every row that I've planted. These are two rows of onions and a row of potatoes, and where I ran out of potatoes I put homesteader peas, an heirloom variety, at the end. Now I found that the purple potatoes that I wanted to grow, there's no seed because of a crop failure. So mine were kind of shriveled up, but I stuck them into a cell pack with a little bit of peat moss. They started to root up, so I'm going to transplant these into the garden. And I'm going to do things a little different than most people do, and the way I grew up. We used to dig a hole every 3 feet and drop a piece of potato in it. But I'm not doing that. All I'm doing is I'm just going to make a depression in the ground. For these, it's just deep enough so you can get the potato in there, get the roots into some soil. But for the potatoes themselves, it'd be about the same thing, just dig a small depression. Now what this does is, we have really hard ground, well I do, and a lot of rock, as you can see. So what I did is I looked at what they did over in Northern Europe, where they have a lot of rock to deal with, and I started growing, I call them no-dig potatoes. I put the potato basically on the top or just slightly into the soil, and then I cover it with wood shavings or grass clippings or straw or something, and then as it grows throughout the summer I just keep adding. And then in the fall you just pull up the plant, pick off all the potatoes, no digging. It's worked really well for me, so that's what I'm going to keep on doing. So the potatoes I did get, trying these Amorosa. I've never grown these before. They're a red potato, red inside. And of course my purples, the few that I do have. And then the regular standbys that I grew up with, the Norlands, which are a red-skinned white potato. And russets, which are a brown-skinned white potato. So a little more popular, a little easier to get seed. But I'm really going to be babying my purple potatoes this year since there is no seed, and chances are with continued crop losses there may not be. So we're going to have to try and save some varieties through the Grand Solar Minimum that are really beneficial, and let the commercial guys do what they do, and if they have crop failures, at least we'll have something. So that's it for the potato planting. I'm going to get a few done here, and I'll show you what I've done and wrap the video up. And one more thing, these were pretty small potatoes, but I cut them in half. Got a couple eyes with a little bit of growth on each piece, so then when they go into the ground, I just make a little depression. And that's what happens when your battery runs out, you get cut off. So we're back, they'll charge up and back to the rock garden. So here's some of the other potatoes that the wife cut to help me out. And this is what we used to do when I was growing up. Just, you know, as long as there's an eye or two on the potato, it's good to go. And I marked it, so here's my last potato. I'm planting them roughly, oh, look at that, there's a rock. Surprise, surprise. Roughly a foot and a half apart. Just put them in, cover them up a little bit, eyes to the sky, and it's that simple. So I'm going to carry on here and plant some potatoes. By the way, we're in zone 2. We used to be at the southern edge of zone 2, almost in zone 3, and when they updated the zone map here a couple years ago, when some alarmist showed me a map, and it says, oh look, it's warming up, and the zones are shifting. And I did some research, and it looked like the zones that shifted were around cities where the airports were surrounded by construction over time. My zone, the weather station, hasn't changed since it was set up. The houses it didn't get built around or anything like that. So we're at the northern edge of zone 2 now, almost in zone 1. So that's how much we've lost in the last probably 20 years. So our last frost date here is usually end of May. There's a full moon this weekend on the 18th. If it's going to freeze, that will probably be it. And hopefully after that we're in the clear. So by the time anything in the garden is up, it'll be out of the frost danger zone. So that's this quick video on my rock garden and a few things that I'm planting, and I'll keep you updated as I get more stuff planted and a few other things that I'm going to be doing. So till then, take a nice little look at my Inuksuks at the other end of the row. Welcome to all the new subscribers, by the way, and thanks to Diamond for a shout out again. And subscribe if you haven't, like if you like, spread the word, let's grow some food.